Welcome to Gayle Jann Yoga. I'm Gayle, and today we're going to work on flexibility and strengthening of the feet and the ankles. So the feet are so important. They transport us. They're a basic form of transportation, and we stand on them. We're weight bearing on them. The problem is when our feet are, like our arches are weak, our ankles are weak, we can tend to end up having problems. We can have plantar fasciitis or neuromas or fallen arches. So when we tend to fall, like if you twist your ankle, you usually end up twisting it to the outside. So we're going to do some self-massage, we're going to do some strength building, and basically overall awareness of how we place weight on our feet. So let's start doing a little self-massage. I'm going to turn around and show you. So you can sickle your ankle a little bit and place the opposite foot on the inside of your arch and use the bone of the top of your ankle to press and release. And this can be a little bit uncomfortable. So you don't have to take it too deep. You just decide how much weight you want to put on it. And then you can also glide from your heel down towards your big toe mound. And just notice the places that are sensitive. It doesn't necessarily feel so great when you're doing it, but afterwards it feels really good. Okay, so then we'll switch sides. I'll do it from this side. So opposite foot on top, and just kind of sit back. If you don't get the top of the arch, that bone, right in the, with contact with your foot, you won't feel much. But believe me, if you find that little point of the bone of your arch, then you'll be able to go as deep as you want. So the feet are actually very complex. They're composed of 26 bones, 19 muscles, 33 joints, and 107 ligaments. Think of all that stuff that's in this small little space. Okay, so now hopefully we've gotten a good massage going there. You might want to tap out your feet a little bit. And then we'll come into a squat. In yoga, it's known as voluntarily. So if you're not comfortable squatting, you can end up on your toes a little bit. You could place a block underneath your hips, or you could roll up like a little blanket or a towel and place it underneath your heels. So we're going to start by doing some like coming up onto our toes in Vollasana and lowering down with control. So the way we stretch something is you either anchor one point and pull the other end, or you pull both ends. So what we're going to do, it's really important actually when you stretch your feet to think of your big toe mound as your anchor, because we tend to roll outward and the big toe mound comes up. So we want to place a lot of weight and pressure into the big toe mound so that doesn't happen. So when we do these heel lifts from a squat, you want to lean forward a little bit, use your core and push into your big toe mound, lift your heels up as high as you can, and then with control, slowly lower down. So you're not plopping down, but you're lowering down with control. And then shift your weight a little bit forward, press into the big toe mounds, lift up through your heels. Try not to let the ankles roll out and slowly come down. So it feels like you land really softly. We'll do that 2 more times. See there, my ankle just went out. That's what you don't want to do. So keep the ankles hugging in, press into the big toe mound, lift up and slowly lower. And last one, shift forward, press into the toe mounds, lift up and slowly lower down. Now for this next one, we're going to roll the ankles in and out while we're either in Vollasana, or if this is difficult for you to balance, you can sit in a chair. So I'm going to shift my weight into my right foot and just roll my knee to the outside, coming to the outside edge of my foot, and my knee back to the inside. So this is nice for the hip joint. And also, this kind of works the ankles and it gives you a little kind of a movement massage on the sole of your foot. I'm going to switch sides. So if you have limited hip mobility This might be harder to do in the squat. Feel free to sit on a chair. Just one more time, back and forth. Good, and then come back to center. Lower your hips down and bring your feet together in Baddha Konasana. But for this variation, we're going to peel the feet open so that the soles of the feet are open, and we can use our thumbs and kind of just press in all around the feet, into the arches, into just below the bones of the toes. Just trying to get a lot of places, noticing if anything is tender. And then you can take your toes, take your hands on the tip of your toes and press them out, keeping the big toe mounds together. So I'm pulling the toes back to give them a stretch, pressing into the big toe mound. This is really important because now we're trying to bring the feet together instead of apart. And you can actually see the little arch on the outside edge of your foot. So pull the toes back and then bring them together. Maybe just try and just play with pushing the big toe mounds together. So activating the legs a little bit and pulling the toes out. And we'll just do that one more time. Good, then bring your knees up and we're going to come onto our backs and just work on some mobility without any weight on the feet. So bring your feet so they float right over your hips. And then pull your toes back towards your chest as much as you can. Trying to keep the feet from splaying out. So trying to keep the feet parallel to each other. And then gently point your toes. And go back and forth. You can even bring the big toe mounds together so that your feet are working together. And you're not letting them rotate out or kind of splay out. I think it's important for most people not to point their toes too strongly. So you want to avoid cramping. But the biggest thing is to concentrate on the evenness of the motion of how you're working, flexing the feet, flexing the toes. And noticing, it's subtle right now, but noticing where you feel the stretch. When I point my toes, I feel it more kind of on the front of my shins. And if I really press up through the heels, I feel a little more in the back of the calves. And then separate your feet and start to do ankle rolls. So trying to keep the legs still so that you get the movement in the ankles. So I'm not like rolling my whole leg around. I'm just trying to isolate, and you could do them in the same direction. You could do it in opposite directions. And make sure you get both ankles moving in both directions of your circle. And then we're going to try like a diagonal movement. So flexing the heels and pointing the toes off to the side. And then again, same thing, other side. So a little bit of a back and forth movement of the feet. And then maybe come back to center. Rock on up to seated. Another thing that I like to do is play with pointing my toes. And you might have to bend your knees. It's really, you get a different kind of stretch if you can straighten your legs. And then curl the toes. Take your fingers and stretch out the top of your feet. So I'm really trying to curl the toes in and get both of the joints bent. And just go back and forth like that a few more times. Good. And then just kind of wiggle out the feet. The next thing we're going to do, you can use yoga blocks, or you might want to do this on some stairs. But we're going to work on calf raises, but really focusing on that big toe mound and strengthening the feet. So you want to place your foot so the ball mound of your foot is solidly on the block, not too far back, not just the toes. And you don't want it right on the edge because you might slip off. So a little bit like maybe an inch or so inside. And then you put weight into your foot and start to push into the big toe mound and maybe lift your other foot off the floor and lower down. Actually, this is kind of hard for me to balance. I'm trying not to lose the pressure of the big toe mound into the block. Now you can always hold on to a wall, which would actually be a good idea. Now I'm going to do them with both feet on the block. And so I'm lowering the heels a little bit and then pressing into the big toe mounds to come up. And you can do this, I've seen 2 different ways with the legs straight. And you could also bend the knees a little bit. The most important thing, I think, is to keep the big toe mounds rooted. And then I'll try, see if I can do just the left leg. So again, I'm pressing down into the big toe mound, lifting the other heel up. Maybe I can't do it on this side. And slowly lowering down. Whoa. Okay, so you can play with that as much as you want. So now we're going to work on doing some yoga poses and the action of the feet in our poses. So I'm going to start with my big toe mounds together. I'm trying to balance my hips, my shoulders right over the feet. And then keep pressing down through the big toe mounds. Reach the heels up as high as you can. So I don't mean just like a little bit, but as high as you can for right now. And slowly lower down. Inhale, lift up. And lower down. Inhale, reach it up, pushing into those big toe mounds, lifting those heels a little bit higher than you might do initially. We'll do one more. Good. Then we're gonna go into downward facing dog. So inhale, reach up. And exhale, bow. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Place your hands, step your feet back. Down dog. So you can bend one knee at a time and really try and press that knee forward so you get a stretch in the soles of your foot, and try and keep that big toe mound down. You can alternate between feet. So that when we're in down dog, really when we're in any pose, you want to keep grounding through that big toe mound, and that'll help a lot with balance. And then it's a calf stretch, which can also, if the calves are tight, it's going to affect your feet. You can bring your right foot over to the left side of the mat, bend your left knee, and then reach from your big toe mound out to the outside of your heel. And you can even notice if I shift my weight a little more toward the inner heel, and then I shift it back toward the outer heel, the stretch in the calf will shift a little bit. So you can play with that subtlety. I'm getting a really big stretch in my calf, so I'm not locking my knee back. I'm trying to keep a little bit of forward pressure with the knee. And then come to the other side. Same thing here. So the calf of the leg that's being stretched, that leg is the one that's going to be straighter. The other knee can be a little bit bent. Really work, keeping contact with the big toe mound. And come back to center. And then we'll step our foot forward just about halfway. And I'm going to press into the big toe mound of the back foot and pull my heel forward and back and forth. The more you pull your heel forward, the more of a stretch you'll get on the sole of your foot. And then I'm going to work on the front foot. So now the back foot doesn't really have much weight over it, but the front foot I'm going to have more weight. So I'm going to reach forward and back. Now I've injured my right toe, so it's stiffer than the other side, but I really feel like these mobility practices are helping to keep as much mobility as I can in that foot. And then from here, I'm going to switch sides. So again, you can work out the back foot, the one that's non-weight bearing. Trying to press into the big toe mound, pull the heel forward. Stretch out the foot, and then we'll do the front foot. You could have blocks here underneath your hands. That's always a good option. So the further forward I go and keep the big toe mound down, deepens the stretch. And come back to downward facing dog. And bring your knees to the floor. Bring your left leg up and stack your hip, open your foot out to the side. So we're going to stretch the inner thigh, but also if I try and keep the bottom outside edge of this foot that's outside plugged into the floor and keep the big toe mound working, it's going to help to create an arch, the inner arch, and it's also giving my ankle a stretch here. But I'm keeping the arch engaged to strengthen the arch and to stretch the ankle, the outer ankle a little bit. And just kind of rocking back and forth. And you can feel the difference. You can roll your foot back and forth a little bit. It feels different if you come to the inner edge of the foot. So you can play with that too. See how it feels. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm stretching my foot out to the side, really trying to keep the outside edge of the foot grounded, feeling that inner arch, feeling the stretch on the inside of the thigh. And then maybe roll the ankle back and forth a few times. And come back, downward facing dog. So now we're going to come into Vosstasana, and you can stack your feet, or you can have one foot in front. So I'm going to bring my hand more towards the center of the mat, rotate onto the outside edge of my bottom foot. So in Vosstasana, if we're trying to do lots of different variations, it's much easier if you can get the sole of your foot to the floor. So the way to start that is to bend your knees. Try as much as you can to root through the big toe mound, and then straighten the legs as best you can. It's actually quite hard to do, to get the whole sole of the foot on the floor. So now I'm flexing the ankle in the opposite direction, and it's weight bearing. But once I have that foot more grounded, then it gives me more freedom to lift my leg or to go into a wild thing. So it just helps you to be a lot more stable. Another variation for this is to bring the front foot forward and still try and lift the hip and work out through the big toe mound. Let's try the other side. I'm going to bring the left hand in, stack my feet, or have the right foot forward, outside edge of the left foot. Bend the knees, and that makes it more accessible to getting your big toe down. Try and press that big toe down, and then as much as I can, straighten the leg. And again, once I have that down more or less, or I'm really pressing out through the big toe mound, just lost my balance. I have more balance to lift up, step it back, open it up. And then we'll come back to our downward facing dog. Walk your hands back to your feet. Bring your feet like about hip distance apart. Press into the earth, inhale, rise up. And exhale, release. So now we're going to try walking on our toes, but trying to walk keeping the heel high, not just barely above the floor. That's what creates the challenge. A lot of the work of balancing is going to keep that big toe mound grounded. I'm pressing into the big toe mounds. Also, I have to engage the core. So I have to have a lift through the belly. I'm engaging the glutes a little bit. And then pressing down, lift up really tall. So when I step, I'm focusing on stepping in to the big toe mound. So if I don't focus on that, it's easy to roll to the outside edge of the foot, and it's much harder to walk. I'll lower the heels down. Inhale, reach up. We'll do that a couple more times. So exhale, bow. Inhale, lift to lengthen. Exhale, bow. Step back to down dog. First, ground through the big toe mounds and see if you can get the outside edge of your heel down so that your arches should be lifted, and you can't see the feet if you look, you can't see your heels if you look back. And walk your hands back. And again, we'll inhale, rise up. Exhale, release. So engage the core, engage your glutes, engage the calves. So lift up. Really challenge yourself by lifting those heels nice and high, like you have stilettos on. And then start to keep the heels as high as you can as you walk forward. And then maybe an extra little stretch. Whoa! And lower down. And then one more time. Inhale up. Exhale, bow. Inhale, lift. Exhale, bow. Step back to your down dog. Stretch it out. Work the feet. Walk your hands back. Press into the feet to rise with your breath. Then exhale, hands to the heart. Inhale, reach your heels up as you reach your arms up. Pull the belly in. Try and keep the heels as high as you can. And walk forward. And slowly lower down. So there's more we can do, but for now I'm just going to leave you with this. See how it feels for you. Let me know how it goes. If you have any questions, if you have any requests for other videos, and I hope you have healthy feet that can take you on many adventures. Namaste.